They chose a death that defied the very concept of slavery. The year is 73 AD. High above the scorching Judean desert on an isolated mesa stands Masada. For months, nearly 1,000 Jewish zealots, men, women, and children, have defied the might of the Roman Empire, holding fast to their freedom, even as General Lucius Flavius Silva's 10th Legion besieges their mountain stronghold. This isn't just a battle for land. It's a clash of wills, a desperate stand for a way of life. The story of Masada isn't merely about ancient warfare. It's a stark examination of human resolve, the ultimate price of liberty, and the philosophical question of whether certain deaths are not only preferable, but perhaps even necessary for the soul. What does it mean to be truly free when your very existence is under threat? For years, the Jewish people had chafed under Roman rule. The First Jewish-Roman War, which began in 66 AD, was a brutal rebellion fueled by religious fervor and a fierce desire for self-determination. Jerusalem fell in 70 AD, its temple destroyed, a cataclysmic event that shattered the heart of Jewish life. Yet a small pocket of resistance remained. The Sicarii, a radical faction of Jewish zealots, had seized Masada years earlier. Their name, derived from the Latin word for daggers, reflected their ruthless tactics. For them, compromise with Rome was anathema. Death was a preferable alternative to submission. Masada itself was an impressive natural fortress, a flat-topped plateau rising over 300 feet above the Dead Sea. Herod the Great had fortified it decades earlier, turning it into an opulent palace fortress, complete with elaborate bathhouses, storehouses, and a sophisticated water system that collected precious rain. Inside, the Sicarii, led by Eleazar ben Yair, held out. They had provisions, water, and the high ground. But the Romans had an inexhaustible supply of manpower and an unwavering resolve to crush the last embers of rebellion. Silva's legion, numbering some 15,000 men, was a force of unparalleled engineering and military discipline. The Romans began constructing an enormous siege ramp, a monumental engineering feat that still stands today. Thousands of slaves, many of them Jewish prisoners, toiled under the desert sun, hauling rocks and timber to build a direct path to Masada's western gate. It was a slow, agonizing grind. From their perch, the zealots watched, their hope dwindling with each stone laid. The ramp grew higher, closer, a coiled serpent slowly ascending to strike. What thoughts must have run through their minds? The fear of capture, the certainty of enslavement, or worse, the defilement of their beliefs. On the 15th of Xanthicus, in the spring of 73 AD, the ramp was complete. The Romans moved their siege tower and battering ram into position. The final assault was imminent. Eleazar ben Yair knew their time was up. There would be no miraculous escape, no last-minute reprieve. But Eleazar had a plan, one that would deny Rome its ultimate victory, the humiliation of a conquered people. He gathered his followers and delivered two powerful speeches, recorded by the historian Josephus, a former Jewish general who had defected to the Romans. He reminded them of their shared ideals, their unwavering commitment to freedom. He argued that death, freely chosen, was not an end, but a defiant act, a preservation of their dignity and their very souls. "Let our wives die before they are abused, and our children before they have tasted of slavery," he urged. His words resonated deeply. For people whose history was steeped in covenant and divine law, the prospect of being enslaved, of having their bodies and beliefs defiled by their conquerors, was a fate worse than death. It was an annihilation of their identity. The decision was made. They would commit mass suicide, but not in a chaotic frenzy. It was an organized, deliberate act. 10 men were chosen by lot to kill the others, ensuring that each family met its end with courage and order, not fear. Then one of the 10 would kill the remaining 9, and finally himself. As the sun set on that fateful night, the sounds of the Roman camp drifted up to the fortress. Inside, a different kind of silence fell. A silence born of collective sorrow and an even more profound collective resolve. They embraced their loved ones, knowing these were their last moments. The next morning, the Romans breached the wall. They expected a final, desperate battle. Instead, they were met with an eerie quiet. As they advanced, they found not warriors, but silence. And then the grim discovery, nearly 1,000 bodies meticulously laid out, their lives taken by their own hands. Only 2 women and 5 children who had hidden in a water conduit survived to tell the tale. Their testimony, recorded by Josephus, provides the harrowing details of that night. The Romans, initially bewildered, then filled with a grudging respect, understood the magnitude of what had transpired. Masada became a symbol not of defeat, but of an unyielding spirit. It forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. Is there a line beyond which life itself ceases to be worth living if it means abandoning one's core principles? When does resistance morph into self-destruction, and when is it the ultimate act of self-preservation? For the Stoics, controlling what is within our power is paramount. The zealots of Masada, facing external forces they could not overcome, chose to assert control over the one thing truly left to them, their own deaths. They denied their enemies the satisfaction of their enslavement, choosing an inner freedom even in their final moments. This wasn't a surrender to despair, but an affirmation of values. It was a refusal to be broken, even if it meant being extinguished. In their eyes, the body could be enslaved, but the spirit, the essence of who they were, would remain inviolable. The legacy of Masada echoes through history. In modern Israel, it's a powerful symbol of national resolve, and the phrase, "Masada shall not fall again," serves as a rallying cry. It reminds us that there are some things, some freedoms, some principles that are deemed worth dying for, but it also serves as a cautionary tale. The extremism of the Sicarii ultimately led to their demise, highlighting the fine line between principled resistance and destructive fanaticism. Where do we draw that line in our own lives when standing firm against injustice? The choice at Masada wasn't easy. It was an agonizing, profound decision, born from desperation and deep conviction. It challenges us to reflect on our own values, our own definition of freedom, and what we, in our modern lives, are truly willing to fight for, or perhaps even die for in the spiritual sense. The story of Masada remains a stark, unforgettable chapter in human history, a testament to the enduring power of human will and the complex, often tragic pursuit of freedom. If you're grappling with difficult choices in your own life, consider how the deliberate practice of self-mastery can empower your journey. Explore the nuances of choosing integrity over convenience by watching our next video on the philosophy of Seneca.